Hare Krishna. Welcome to the live studios here at Radha Lane. In case you haven't heard it already, it is an address. It's not just a joke that we named the building. It's actually a street. You can send a letter. We receive packages sometimes. Anyway, it's right next to the Radha Nilamadhava Mandir here at ISKCON of Houston, Texas. And we have a room full of sincere spiritual seekers and devotees. And welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace. We are so fortunate, aren't we? We're hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam together in regular installments every day. And we've reached a very intimate, confidential section of the Vedic scriptures. The Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter 5, which describes after Narada Muni appeared, how Vyasadeva was inspired to compile or bring the Srimad-Bhagavatam into the world. And you can say, truly, that this is the beginning, the very beginning of the Krishna consciousness movement, when the Bhagavatam came into the earth, to the earth's atmosphere. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, brought it to the West for the first time, translated and commented upon by a pure devotee of Krishna. And therefore Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world, and it's spreading because of Srila Prabhupada's austerity. I'm going to give a book recommendation, review. I'm reading Swami in a Strange Land by Joshua Green, who is Yogeshwar, my godbrother Yogeshwar, and his expert telling of Srila Prabhupada's life and how he brought Krishna consciousness from the West and the kinds of austerities that he performed in order to bring these literatures to us. Remarkable. Even of all the different memoirs and biographies that are coming out about Srila Prabhupada since he left, this is on another level. It's very, very wonderful. I highly recommend it. It's called Swami in a Strange Land. Please get it and read it. Tears will come from your eyes as you listen to Srila Prabhupada and the obstacles he overcame to bring us Krishna consciousness. And it makes whatever obstacles we have gone through or going through insignificant in comparison. So we will get inspiration. All right. So now we're in the 5th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And before we recite the Bhagavatam, we're going to recite the prayer, the very famous prayers by Sanatana Goswami, glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwan Dotitaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvadasa Vasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madekabando matsangim madguro man mahadana man nishtadaga madbhagya mad ananda namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chotata kada hanamun chikadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So now Vyasadeva has heard from his spiritual master Narada Muni, and he has brought the Srimad-Bhagavatam into the world. The last verses we heard were about the difference between literatures that don't glorify God and those that do, and the kinds of people who listen to both, and the difference between the two. Crows and swans. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 14. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms and names to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Purport. Sri Vyasadeva is the editor of all descriptions of the Vedic literatures, and thus he has described transcendental realization in different ways, namely by fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and devotional service. Besides that, in his various Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They are always disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. Srila Narada is stressing this particular defect in the Vedic literatures compiled by Vyasadeva, and thus he is trying to emphasize describing everything in relation with the Supreme Lord and no one else. In fact, there is nothing existent except the Lord. The Lord is manifested in different expansions. He is the root of the complete tree. He is the stomach of the complete body. Pouring water on the root is the right process to water the tree, as much as feeding the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva should not have compiled any Puranas other than the Bhagavata Purana, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for self-realization. If a slight deviation can create havoc, then what to speak of the deliberate expansion of the ideas separate from the absolute truth, personality of Godhead? The most defective part of worshipping demigods is that it creates a definite conception of pantheism, ending disastrously in many religious sects, detrimental to the progress of the principles of the Bhagavatam, which alone can give the accurate direction for self-realization in eternal relation with the personality of Godhead by devotional service in transcendental love. The example of the boat disturbed by whirling wind is suitable in this respect. The diverted mind of the pantheist can never reach the perfection of self-realization due to the disturbed condition of the selection of objects. Text 15. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literatures on the basis of regulated performances of fruitive activities, as depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature, is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination by practice to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back home, for going back to Godhead, going back home. To revolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8,400,000 is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditioned souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to re-establish his lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc., and his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement, because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which hold them in material bondage. At a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh-eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literatures such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh-eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten, and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or even by increasing the population, but it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporal defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. In histories like the Mahabharata, of course, there are topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all of their engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to the politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advises him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto Him without delay. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden to him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not take at all. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization, but those who are in the devotional line should never be so advised. Text 16. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization. By your goodness, through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. You try to understand, these are the instructions of Narada Muni to Vyasadeva. And the result of this was the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Purport: theological science is a difficult subject, especially when it deals with the transcendental nature of God. It is not a subject matter to be understood by persons who are too much attached to material activities. Only the very expert who have almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge can be admitted to the study of this great science. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that out of many hundreds and thousands of men, only one person deserves to enter into transcendental realization. And out of many thousands of such transcendentally realized persons, only a few can understand the theological science specifically dealing with God as a person. Sri Vyasadeva is therefore advised by Narada to describe the science of God directly by relating his transcendental activities. Vyasadeva is himself a personality expert in this science, and he is unattached to material enjoyment. Therefore, he is the right person to describe it, and Shukadeva Goswami, his son of Vyasadeva, is the right person to receive it. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the topmost theological science, and therefore it can react on the layman as medicinal doses. Because it contains the transcendental activities of the Lord, there is no difference between the Lord and the literature. The literature is the factual literary incarnation of the Lord, so the laymen can hear the narration of the activities of the Lord. Thereby they are able to associate with the Lord and thus gradually become purified from material diseases. The expert devotees can also discover novel ways and means to convert the non-devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. Devotional service is dynamic activity, and the expert devotees can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of the materialistic population. Such transcendental activities of the devotees for the service of the Lord can bring a new order of life to the foolish society of materialistic men. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his subsequent followers exhibit expert dexterity in this connection. By following the same method, one can bring the materialistic men of this age of quarrel into order for peaceful life and transcendental realization. Text 17. And by the way, in case you didn't notice, the atmosphere that's being created here, every day doing this, speaks for itself. It's evidence in itself of the truth of the words we're hearing. Text 17. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service. Oh, this is a very important verse, I gotta say this one. Tyaktva swadharmam chananam bhajam horer bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kova bhadramabud amushikim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Purport. As far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty bound not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, and other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So if one does so and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service unto the Lord, it is well and good. But it so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maharaj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of this stag when he died. As such, in the next birth, he became a stag, although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth. Similarly, Chitraketu also fell down due to his offenses at the feet of Shiva. But in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down. Because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil in his early life was a devotee, but in his youth he fell down. Still, he was saved by the Lord at the end. And I just received a message that I have to answer. Sorry. This is Matt, by the way. He's driving up to Denver after having quit his job, doing exactly what we're talking about in this verse. And Hare Krishna, please come in. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we've got a chair here. Take a chair over here. One of you take this one, and the other one take that one. Or you can sit on the floor if you like. Some people like it. Some people would rather Hare Krishna. How are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Long time no see. We're in a touchy-feely, three-dimensional, changing body exhibit. That's what the material world is, basically, in a nutshell. So sometimes when we see each other for a long time, we have to think, who was that person? All right, we're reading Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's pretty nectarian. We're hearing Narada's instructions to Vyasadeva just before the Bhagavatam appears on the earth. And paradoxically, we're hearing it from the Bhagavatam itself. There's a reason for that. We'll discuss that later. Text 18. Sorry, those of you out in cyberspace, I just had to answer that message from Dr. Matt, who was here. And he's quit his job. He's on his way up to Denver to join me because I'm going there Wednesday. And apparently he may become a brahmachari in the Denver ashram. All glories to the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Okay, here's another famous verse. Tasyaiva heto priyayetato kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam upar yadaha tal labhyate dukkavad anyatak sukham kalena sat sarvata kabira ranghasa. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. Purport: every man, everywhere, is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. Some men are busy engaged in trade, industry, economic development, political supremacy, and so on. And some of them are engaged in fruitive work to become happy in the next life by attaining higher planets. It is said that on the moon, the inhabitants are fit for greater sense enjoyment by drinking somarasa, and the Pitriloka is obtained by good charitable work. So there are various programs for sense enjoyment, either during this life or in the life after death. Some are trying to reach to the moon or other planets by some mechanical arrangement, for they are very anxious to get into such planets without doing good work. But it is not to happen. By the law of the Supreme, different places are meant for different grades of living beings according to the work they have performed. By good work only, as prescribed in the scriptures, can one obtain birth in a good family, opulence, good education, and good bodily features. We see also that even in this life, one obtains a good education or money by good work. Similarly, in our next birth, we get such desirable positions only by good work. Otherwise, it would not so happen that two persons born in the same place at the same time are seen differently placed according to previous work. But all such material positions are impermanent. The positions in the topmost Brahmaloka and in the lowest Patala are also changeable according to our own work. The philosophically inclined person must not be tempted by such changeable positions. He should try to get into the permanent life of bliss and knowledge, where he will not be forced to come back again to the miserable material world, either in this or in that planet. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they are obtained in Brahmaloka and in other lokas also. They are obtained in the life of the demigods and also in the life of the dogs and hogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of all living beings are only of different degree and quality, but no one is free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not, therefore, waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. Vintage Prabhupada, these are vintage. These are the words that he wrote when he was in Vrindavan, 9 years, working at himself, pecking away at a typewriter. No, computer, no software, no internet, nothing. Single-handedly scratching together some money just to get one volume printed, and then working for years after that to get another volume printed, and so on. And these are the words that came out. They're edited to make them perfect English, but these are the thoughts, the same thoughts. You can hear them. Sometimes there's some debate about the way the editing has been done, because Srila Prabhupada gave, so first of all, he set up the editing department himself, and then he empowered certain editors, and the ones who stayed loyal, the one who stayed pure, such as Jayadvaita Maharaj and Dravida, they become very, very expert. And they followed the instruction of Prabhupada to edit for force and clarity. And this is the result. When you hear these purports every day like this, you hear the tremendous force and clarity of Prabhupada's words. So you need not be disturbed by any kind of controversy about this issue. Just read these books every day out loud like this, and you will see these are the words of Prabhupada, and they have the effect on the heart. Okay. That should be the mission of everyone's life. Text 19. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers and so on. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Purport. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence because he is rasagraha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruitive workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by the chastisement directed by the Lord himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruitive workers. The fruitive workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord and is set right to execute his devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified brahmanas or in a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. The devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good families. The fallen devotees born in a good family may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they are less fortunate. But the devotee who is put into a forlorn condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is the sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds. Hare Krishna. Text 20. Oh, this is another. These are really, really important verses. Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagatstana nirodasam bhavaha taddi swayam vedabhavang tatapiye te pradesha matram bhavatak pradarshitam. The Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is Himself this cosmos, and still He is aloof from it. From Him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated, in Him it rests, and unto Him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. Purport. For a pure devotee, the conception of Mukunda, Lord Sri Krishna, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and the branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. The Vedic version that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from Him. Similarly, the part and parcel, hands and legs, are called the body, but the body as the whole, unit, is neither the hands nor the legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty, and thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. I'll read that again. This is really nice, two nice sentences, very nice. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty, and thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. The captivated conditioned souls, under the influence of the external energy, Maya, are therefore entrapped in the network of the material nature. They accept this as all in all, for they have no information of the Lord, who is the primeval cause, nor have they information that the parts and parcels of the body, being detached from the whole body, are no longer the same hand or leg as when attached to the body. Similarly, a godless civilization, detached from the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is just like a detached hand or leg. Such parts and parcels may appear like hands and legs, but they have no efficiency. The devotee of the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva, knows this very well. He is further advised by Srila Narada to expand the idea so that the entrapped conditioned souls may take lessons from him to understand the Supreme Lord as the primeval cause. According to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus his supreme energies are always perfect and identical with him. Both the spiritual and the material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the internal and external energies of the Lord. The external energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is living force, and therefore she is completely identical, but the external energy, being inert, is partially identical. But both the energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under his control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under the control of the engineer. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he is never equal to or superior to the personality of Godhead. The Lord and the living beings are all individual persons. With the help of the material energies, the living beings are also creating something, but none of their creations are equal or superior to the creations of the Lord. The human being may create a small playful Sputnik and may throw it into outer space, but that does not mean that he can create a planet like the Earth or Moon and float it in the air as the Lord does. Men with a poor fund of knowledge claim to be equal to the Lord. They are never equal to the Lord. This is never to be. The human being, after attaining complete perfection, may achieve a large percentage of the qualities of the Lord, say up to 78%, but it is never possible to surpass the Lord or to become equal with him. In a diseased condition only, the foolish being claims to be one with the Lord, and thus becomes misled by the illusory energy. The misguided living beings, therefore, must accept the supremacy of the Lord and agree to render loving service to him. For this they have been created. Without this, there cannot be any peace or tranquility in the world. Srila Vyasadeva is advised by Srila Narada to expand this idea in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the same idea is explained. Surrender fully unto the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the only business of the perfect human being. Text 21. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the super soul, personality of Godhead, because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion incarnation of the Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls, and it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formally Srila Narada Rishi is his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on his spiritual master, because in essence he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Rama, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu All incarnations of Godhead accepted formal spiritual masters, although by their transcendental nature, they were cognizant of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, he himself, in the incarnation of Vyasadeva, is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Text 22. This is real education. This is real education. We can find out what's going on here. What's right, what's wrong, where we're going, where we came from, why. Text 22. Hidam hipongshas tapasak shutasya va shvishtasya suktasya sabudi data yoho avichutorta kavibir nirupito yat uttama shloka gunanavarnanam. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. Purport. Human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, and so on. By culture of such knowledge, the human society can attain perfection of life. This perfection of life culminates in the realization of the Supreme Being, Vishnu. The Shruti therefore directs that those who are actually advancing in learning, that the Shruti therefore directs that those who are actually advanced in learning should aspire for the service of Lord Vishnu. Unfortunately, persons who are enamored by the external beauty of Vishnu Maya do not understand that culmination of perfection or self-realization depends on Vishnu. Vishnu Maya means sense enjoyment, which is transient and miserable. Those who are entrapped by Vishnu Maya utilize advancement of knowledge for sense enjoyment. Sri Narada Muni has explained that all paraphernalia of the cosmic universe is but an emanation from the Lord out of his different energies, because the Lord has set in motion by his inconceivable energy the actions and reactions of the created manifestation. They have come to be out of his energy. They rest on his energy, and after annihilation, they merge into him. Nothing is therefore different from him. But at the same time, the Lord is always different from them. When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. The personality of Godhead and his transcendental name, fame, glory, and so on are all non-different from him. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, music, etc., may be used in glorifying the Lord. The fiction writers, poets, and celebrated literateurs are generally engaged in writing of sensuous subjects. But if they turn towards the service of the Lord, they can describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Valmiki was a great poet, and similarly, Vyasadeva is a great writer, and both of them have absolutely engaged themselves in delineating the transcendental activities of the Lord, and by doing so, have become immortal. Similarly, science and philosophy also should be applied in the service of the Lord. There is no use presenting dry, speculative theories for sense gratification. Philosophy and science should be engaged to establish the glory of the Lord. Advanced people are eager to understand the absolute truth through the medium of science, and therefore a great scientist should endeavor to prove the existence of the Lord on a scientific basis. Similarly, philosophical speculations should be utilized to establish the supreme truth, such as sentient and all-powerful. Similarly, all other branches of knowledge should always be engaged in the service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also the same is affirmed. All knowledge not engaged in the service of the Lord is but nations. Real utilization of advanced knowledge is to establish the glories of the Lord, and that is the real import. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are all factually Hari Kirtana, or glorification of the Lord. This is a very important point because, not only does it engage all the activities of human society, but what we're doing right now is Kirtan. This is Sankirtan. So the chanting and congregational chanting of the holy name with musical instruments in the temple room and in programs and melas and all that is very, very important. And it's in fact, it's the beginning of spiritual life, and without it, you can't take a step forward. But without this, you can't go further. They're both needed, absolutely needed. Therefore, Prabhupada established the publication of books as his main activity. And the distribution of them is the main process by which our previous acharyas have spread the glories of the Lord. And now Prabhupada has finally brought it all over the world. First, only. We're so fortunate. Text 23. O Muni, in my past life, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. Purport. The wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord is briefly described herein by Sri Narada Muni. He was the son of the most insignificant parentage. He was not properly educated. Still, because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Such is the powerful action of devotional service. The living entities are the marginal energy of the Lord, and therefore they are meant for being properly utilized in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. When this is not done, one situation is called Maya. Therefore, the illusion of Maya is at once dissipated as soon as one's full energy is converted in the service of the Lord instead of in sense enjoyment. From the personal example of Sri Narada Muni in his previous birth, it is clear that the service of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. The Lord says that the service of his servants is greater than his personal service. Service of the devotee is more valuable than the service of the Lord. One should therefore choose a bona fide spiritual servant of the Lord, constantly engaged in his service, accept such a servant as the spiritual master, and engage himself in the spiritual master's service. Such a spiritual master is the transparent medium by which to visualize the Lord, who is beyond the conception of the material senses. By service to the bona fide spiritual master, the Lord consents to reveal himself in proportion to the service rendered. Utilization of the human energy in the service of the Lord is the progressive path of salvation. The whole cosmic creation becomes at once identical with the Lord as soon as service in relation with the Lord is rendered under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The expert spiritual master knows the art of utilizing everything to glorify the Lord, and therefore, under his guidance, the whole world can be turned into the spiritual abode by the divine grace of the Lord's servants. Text 24. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, all the Vedas are searching after me. Lord Sri Chaitanya says that in the Vedas, the subject matters are only three, namely, to establish the relation of the living entities with the personality of Godhead, perform the relative duties in devotional service, and thus achieve the ultimate goal, back to Godhead. As such, Vedantavadis, or the followers of the Vedanta, indicate the pure devotees of the personality of Godhead. Such Vedantavadis, or the Bhaktivedantas, are impartial in distributing the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. To them, no one is enemy or friend. No one is educated or uneducated. No one is especially favorable, and no one is unfavorable. The Bhaktivedantas see that the people in general are wasting time in false sensuous things. Their business is to get the ignorant mass of people to re-establish their lost relationship with the personality of Godhead. By such endeavor, even the most forgotten soul is roused up to the sense of spiritual life, and thus, being initiated by the Bhaktivedantas, the people in general gradually progress on the path of transcendental realization. So the Vedantavadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was detached from childish sporting, etc. But before the initiation, he, the boy, became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, which is the beginning of actual human life, small boys, after 5 years of age, are sent to become brahmacharis at the Guru's ashrama, where these things are systematically taught to every boy, be he a king's son or the son of an ordinary citizen. The training was compulsory, not only to create good citizens of the state, but also to prepare the boy's future life for spiritual realization. The irresponsible life of sense enjoyment was unknown to the children of the followers of the Varnashrama system. A boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father in the womb of the mother. Both the father and the mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. That is the process of successful family planning. It is to beget children for complete perfection without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, without being fully obedient. No one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. So, Hare Krishna. So all the ladies who become pregnant, they should hear every day this sound. Because when this sound goes into your ear, it goes into the ear of the child also. Especially after 6 months. But even before. And that way when it comes out, he'll be special. Everybody wants to have a special child. Who doesn't want to have a special child? The answers are here in Prabhupada's books for everything. Text 25. Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food and by so doing all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. This is the importance of prasad distribution. Purport. Pure devotion is as much infectious in a good sense as infectious diseases. A pure devotee is cleared from all kinds of sins. The personality of Godhead is the purest entity, and unless one is equally pure from the infection of material qualities, one cannot become a pure devotee of the Lord. The Bhaktivedantas, as above mentioned, were pure devotees, and the boy became infected with their qualities of purity by their association and by eating once the remnants of the foodstuff taken by them. Such remnants may be taken even without permission of the pure devotees. There are sometimes pseudo-devotees, and one should be very much cautious about them. There are many things which hinder one from entering devotional service. But by the association of pure devotees, all these obstacles are removed. The neophyte devotee becomes practically enriched with the transcendental qualities of the pure devotee, which means attraction for the personality of Godhead's name, fame, quality, pastimes, etc. Infection of the qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste of pure devotion always in the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. This transcendental taste at once makes all material things distasteful. Therefore, a pure devotee is not at all attracted by material activities. After the elimination of all sins or obstacles on the path of devotional service, one can become attracted. One can have steadiness. One can have perfect taste. One can have transcendental emotions. And at last, one can be situated on the plane of loving service of the Lord. All these stages develop by the association of pure devotees, and that is the purport of this stanza. Hare Krishna. How nice is that? Stunning. All right, I'm going to stop here. Now we have our reflections. If there's anything that stood out, please let us know. If you have some comments or some reflections to make, or any questions, please feel free.
One thing
Yes,
that stood out to me,
Bhakti Phil.
the verse about
One thing stood out to him. The verse about Bharat Maharaj
taking birth as a stag.
taking birth as a stag
Next life. I was just
in his
wondering,
next life. He was wondering,
how
did that happen?
do we know?
How did that happen, first of all? We know it happened because there were witnesses. Everything. This is a historical document. And Bharat Maharaj was the son of Vyasadeva, the eldest son, actually. And Vyasadeva, before he went to the forest to perform austerities, he was the king of the world. So the personalities who are going through these things were very, very elevated personalities. It's not just anyone who we hear about in the Bhagavatam. And therefore, when we hear about the stories, these are stories that are eternally contained in the scriptures and are brought into human consciousness by their extreme advanced meditations and recollections. That's how we know. It's just like You know, how do you know about your great-great-grandfather? I mean, some people may not, but almost everyone is kind of interested to know where they came from, and you may not have seen your great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-great-grandfather, but so how do you know you had one? Because everybody has one. And how do you know? Because somebody told you. And the person who told you was somebody who saw him, and then that person saw him, watched his activities, and can tell you the details. Just like even us in our own life, you know, when we were a kid, we may have, you know, tried to do a pole vault over a, you know, over a wall and slipped on a banana peel and landed on our head in a brick and got a scar in our head. Yeah, very young. And we may not even remember that happening. Parents know. They watched it happen. Where did I get this? Oh, by the way, you tried to pole vault over a wall when you were a foolish little boy, and you were negligent and you didn't see the banana peel. That's how we find out things, by hearing. Everyone hears. Everyone learns by this process. We're no exceptions. Nobody's an exception. Hare Krishna. What else? Yes, Krishna Kripa.
Well, just it's nice how Narada Muni remembers his
It's nice how Narada Muni remembers his childhood.
And says, you know, I wasn't a bad boy.
He said, I wasn't a bad boy.
And I didn't have a lot of attractions to society.
And I didn't have any attraction to society and things.
Therefore, by his admission, luck.
Therefore, by his admission,
He
luck.
had the mercy of the Bhaktivedantas by serving them. They showed up one day and stayed. And had
Yes,
listened.
it seems to be luck. Yes.
I mean, it isn't, but
That's the way things happen. Incidental. That's why the devotees of the Lord travel all over the world. That's why if Prabhupada wouldn't have come here, we wouldn't be here, all listening to this, if he hadn't come here. He decided. It wasn't by chance. Nothing ever happens by chance. But he decided. We can't say, oh, you know, I'm so this and I'm so that. No. If he hadn't decided, and he hadn't done what he did to translate these books and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world and do austerities, we can't even imagine what he did. I mean, the devotees who first went by, I was talking about them when we first came into the room, because I'm reading this Swami in the Strange Land book, and there's some really nice vignettes describing how, you know, when the devotees came back with him to India and were forced by him to be with him while he did these tours where he was working 15 hours a day and traveling from one place to another without any facilities, because in those days, you know, it was hard to find facilities in India, actually, in those days. Now it's a lot different. There's much more facility. But in those days, especially when they went to remote villages and things like that, there were no Western amenities, no, you know, facilities for hygiene and all the kinds of things, and air conditioning and things we all take for granted over here, you know, in America. So, yeah, therefore, in the verse, one of the purports, we heard how important it is to associate with a person who is associated with a person on that level. And there's a difference. There's a difference. And like that, there's a current of sound coming from ear to mouth, mouth to ear, mouth to ear, mouth to ear. And when you catch that current and accept it, then you can find out anything. And if you look at the world through that sound, through that knowledge, that transcendental sound, everything can become clear. And the fear and anxiety can go away. It can. I mean, things are still happening, and what do they say? Stuff happens in this material world. You can't avoid it. Stuff happens, but it doesn't have to affect us as much as it does. And eventually it doesn't have to affect us at all. And you can imagine how successful you can become at anything you do if you're actually an undisturbed person. I mean, we got a person at the head of our country right now who's so disturbed, he just can't help himself but lash out at anybody who questions him about anything. And now even everybody's going, wait a second, what's going on here? He's a madman, you know, in the most powerful position in the planet, and he's, you know, a madman. What's going on here? So we may think, how is it possible that a whole country can follow somebody like that? Well, how is it possible for people to follow Hitler? How is it possible for people to follow Hiranyakashipu or Kamsa or anybody? Because it's providence. It's providence. And it's the way the world works. And we can't stop the way the world works. The only solution is for us to remove ourselves from the world, not physically, but consciously. Absorb ourselves in the truth, and that's what the Bhagavatam is, the absolute truth. Absorb ourselves in this consciousness, and still continue with our other duties, with their family life, raising our kid, all the things that we do, profession, whatever it is. But keep this in the front of the mind by hearing, by constant hearing. Constant can mean 24/7, but it also can mean regularly, every day. Because time is very powerful. Kalosmi, Krishna says in the Gita. Kalosmi, time I am. I come to destroy the worlds. So get up and fight, Arjuna, because it's already done. And I can tell you what's going to happen. Everybody else is going to get wiped out except for you and your brothers and a few others. That's it. So now Lord Krishna came back as Lord Chaitanya and he said, this movement's going to spread to every town and village. It's already done. And those of us who were around toward the beginning can testify. We can testify. Just how much it's changed. You know, I mean, I've been traveling like this for almost 50 years, 46 years. And when I used to go, you know, early on the day, and people would look at me, and sometimes I'd get some, you know, hey, get a job, or, yeah, what's up? Hey, you got your pajamas on, you know. You forgot to take your pajamas off, what's wrong with you, you know? And on and on. Sometimes even when I got into an airplane, everybody would come out, and you'd just be sitting there and kind of just having to tolerate. But now, it's just the opposite. Practically, at least I go in certain, anyway, maybe that's still going on, but in the whole, wherever we go, if the persons who are in the know, the people who are doing the service, checking you in, getting your bag, you know, taking care of you in the plane and round all these things, they know. They can tell the difference. They're meeting hundreds and thousands of people every day, and when they meet somebody who's different, you know, they know it, and there's no longer these. There's all like there's like this, or there's, you know, like this, or, you know, everywhere we go. Now, that's how we know. That's how we know. By living it and doing it, then we know. As long as we're not doing it yet or living it, then we're looking and we're seeing something, but we don't know, not in the same way as when you live it. Okay, I'm going to rest my voice because I have to do tomorrow morning. Now, just to prepare everybody, even persons out there in cyberspace, tomorrow night will be the last reading here for 5 days, because I'm going to Denver. And I'll keep the readings going on every day, but it will be 1 hour later here, because I will be 1 hour earlier in Denver.
Maybe 1 hour, they'll probably reading at 5:30 in Denver.
I'll be reading in 6:30 in Denver, and it'll be 7:30 here.
Right now, they've been reading, they're watching you, they watch at 5:30.
Excuse me?
It'll be 1 hour later in Denver also. Because they're watching you live.
Yeah, if they're watching me live and I'm reading in 6:30 there,
That's right.
it'll be 7:30 here.
Yeah,
That's my point.
it's 1 hour later everywhere, right?
No. Everywhere it's 6:30, but in one place it's not 6:30.
I mean, for everyone that's been watching you, they can watch 1 hour later, like, it's gonna be 1 hour later in Denver, not 5:30, 6:30. For us, it'll be 1 hour.
Let's go through this again. Now this is physics now. This is physics.
I'm not good.
So, now, Sarva, this is physics, so now let's, it's 1 hour earlier in mountain time than it is here.
Right.
I'm going to read at the same time I read here, there. So when I read there at 6:30, here it's going to be 7:30. So everyone should know if they want to watch live, then they should watch at 7:30. And if you don't, that's okay because it's recorded and you can watch it anytime on the fan page, which everybody knows out there, but you might not have done it yet here. So, daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. That's the fan page, and you can watch. And I'd like to gather more persons who are watching every day, or at least, if not live, sometime. Because you hear this, it will help you. If you hear it every day like this, it will help you. And even if you have to wait, listen at a different time, according to your schedule or whatever. But if you hear this, because I'm reading very slowly and I'm reading carefully, I'm purposefully doing this every single day, so that persons who don't have time to read or even inclination to read can get this literature, And we just finished the Bhagavad Gita, and it's stored in that fan page, so you can hear the Bhagavad Gita all the way through, day after day, if you want. And then I'll be back on Monday, next Monday, and we'll start here on Monday again at 6:30. All right, so that means tomorrow we'll be here, and then we won't be here until next Monday, and we'll be here on Monday, same time, same station. Hare Krishna. Huh? You're watching it? Testing it? See if it works? Yeah, it works. All right, thank you so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Got 16 devotees in the room. It's very rare. It's very rare to find persons who are hearing this in the world. So you're all rare souls, and I offer you my deepest respect. Take the dust of your feet. This is right from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami at the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said, now you've heard this nectar, so I want the dust from your feet, because you have become special souls. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.